besties, and we back, and we back, and we back, and we back.
Okay, so tonight on this episode of Midnight Mountains, we will be talking about a question that I have. The question is, how do you guys feel about the newer generation being a little bit more outspoken than the older generation? And when I mean outspoken, I just mean not blindly following the respect your elders rule, not blindly just going with whatever our elders say and listening to what they say, but actually investigating and finding out for ourselves. Other than the fact that we do have technology, but like even when I was younger, it's always been that. Like it's never just been like, oh, I'm gonna blindly listen to what anybody says. I'm gonna find out for myself. You know what I'm saying? So how do you guys feel about that? Drop down in the comments and let me know how you feel. But I'm gonna tell you how I feel. Okay, like for me, I think that like the new generation, millennial and Gen Zs, not like the Gen Alpha and them like that. I don't know about them because I'm not them. I'm Gen Z and I grew up with millennials. So, you know, don't know. But I genuinely think that like Gen Zers need to come up with different extravagant ways to communicate sometimes because back in the day, you get yourself read to filth by what they're saying, and it would be so sophisticated, and they would use some words that we don't even use right now no more. Like we barely use them unless we're in like a corporate setting or we're inside of like the office and we're not trying to get reported to HR and stuff like that. That is when we use like the creativity of communication when it comes to expressing ourselves. As far as Gen Z and millennials, sometimes we don't even do that. We just don't give a bleep and we say what's on our mind, and that's okay. Like sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you have to say what's on your mind the first time, because if you don't say what's on your mind the first time, baby, they're just gonna keep going and keep going and keep going and pretend like they didn't know what you just said. So yes, occasionally you do have to read somebody to filth with the vulgarest language that ever has ever spoken, because baby, yeah. But at the same time, back in the day, I do think like the respect factor was a thing. There are some people that just need to understand that you need to be respectful, and this is not the time nor the place to speak like that or communicate like that. And a lot of us don't give a bleep because we're already so used to customs to saying whatever we want to say. And does social media have like a problem with that, or like has like a cause for that? A little bit, but I genuinely think it's because our parents too, who grew up where they had to blindly trust the elders and blindly respect the elders, were like, I don't want to raise my kids like that. So it caused room for us to grow up and be able to verbally and sometimes physically express ourselves the way we want to. Like my mom, she's always told me like my opinion matters, but make sure that my opinion matters in the right room. And like which like not in those exact words, but basically that's what she meant. Like your opinion matters and you can be very opinionated, but make sure that when you're speaking your opinion, one, that it's asked for, and two, that it's necessary. Because sometimes you can have an opinion of something that's not necessary to say out loud. Like you could just keep it up here. It took me a while to learn that though. I'm not gonna lie, because baby, my mouth just sometimes. But as I got older, I understood that and I respected that and I like grasped onto that. And my dad always taught me like there's a time and a place for everything, and that kind of coincides with communication and how you speak to people or what you say about things and people in general, because you never know who knows anyone and you never know who's listening. That too. So like in the business world or just like in community standards and society in general, I do think that there are certain communication skills that needs to happen, that needs to change with the millennials and Gen Zers. But I do think that some people get it the right way though, because baby, when you use a couple swear words, oh, people get to understanding real fast, real quick how you feel. And it shouldn't take all of that. Personally, I think it should take honest communication and honest receptive understanding for people to just get it and look around, or at least get it and just respect what you got going on. And some people have ego issues and all that good stuff. You just need to grow up. But I do think that like some of us need to just get it together when it comes to communication. Now back in the day, people used to just blindly listen to their parents, and well, not all of the people, but a lot of society used to just blindly listen to their parents and blindly did what the elder said and didn't question them. But some of us actually do that nowadays, and some people did do that back in the day, which saved a lot of people's lives, because sometimes when you just do things blindly that someone else says, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble or a lot of danger. And because back then, like people just were so trusting, because you could actually trust your neighbor back then. It's like, oh, well, they told me to go do this, so I'm gonna do it. Nowadays, it's like, I don't even know who my neighbor is, and I don't care to know who my neighbor is. And if they fight, I'm gonna listen, but that's all I'm gonna do. Some people will hear somebody getting knocked around the house and don't call because apparently back in the day, that one time in band camp, they did call the cops and they got mad at the neighbor who called the cops because they were fine, because some people were finding the conditions and lives that they lived and you just mind your business. But back in the day, if Lucianne was getting knocked around by Joe, maybe they wouldn't call the cops, but after Joe went to work, Lucienne would go to her neighbor's house and ask, because she helped her get taken care of and stitched up. And the neighbor would be like, yeah, Lucienne, but you need to leave that man. And even if Lucienne got mad at you, she considered it. And it was hard times back in the day, but a lot of single mothers came from the neighbors actually letting them know, like, listen, you need to leave him. Joe is knocking your screws loose, Lucienne, and I still support you. You know what I'm saying? But like nowadays, it's like, don't be in my business. Me and my man will jump you, or me and my man will unalive you and bury the body because you tried to help me because we're friends. Like there is a whole different category of understanding nowadays, and I do think that like some of that just stems from uneducation, some of that stems from low self-esteem, some of that stems from just not just ignorance, just pure blissful ignorance. That's how I feel. But at the same time, I do think that like the rowdiness and the grit that a lot of us have is like necessary, especially for like the times, like the government we have. Oh my god, guys, I don't even know why we're still dealing with some of the stuff that we were dealing with. The amount of outspokenness that we have as a generation of millennials and Gen Z's, the amount of understanding that we have of certain things in society, the amount of fight that we have. Honestly, I feel like if this was back in the day, though, we would be like not protesting because we did all the protesting before, but we would be striking way harder. Like they like to put in history, like, oh, like we protested, but not everything was protested. Some things were just on strike. I'm gonna call it like it is, and it wasn't just jobs. And a lot of people forget that because they do teach a lot in history class, like, oh, they just protested and they walked and they marched and they were little good servants and they didn't fight back. No, baby, we fought back with our money. And a lot of people are trying to like do that now where they're like, oh, fight back with your money. But fight back with your money. Fight back with your silence. Fight back with turning a blind eye to people who want to stay in the same positions that they're in. Fight back with not saying a gosh darn thing and just smiling and wave, boys. Like them penguins from Madagascar. Yeah. Like that's kind of how I feel when it comes to certain stuff like that. And I do think that like respect is something that is still needed and it still need to be talked about because I do see a lot of like older generation of women and men get disrespected and they don't deserve it. They really, really don't. But I do see a lot of older generation of men and women who disrespects the younger generation and think we are their kids. Baby, I'm not my mama. I'm not my grandma. I'm not my great grandma. Be mindful of what you say to me because you may be older than me, you may be wiser than me, or you may have lived longer times on this earth than me. But baby, I will cut you up with the words that come out of my mouth because if words could kill, you'd be sliced up, love. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like a lot of older generations feel like, oh, you give me respect off bat. These young generations, they don't understand da 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 da. Heck, I've caught myself saying that a couple times. These little kids just working at a school and getting to know little kids out throughout the world, having younger siblings and their friends being around. I've caught myself saying these little kids don't understand, but they don't understand because they weren't around during the times we were. But it's our job to understand what they're going through because our time has already passed. Just like we feel about their generation, like their time has already passed. Y'all need to understand and respect us. Our time is still going, and their time is progressing. So it's not like it's past 100%, but our childhood time has passed. They're not getting raised by boomers. They're getting raised by millennials and Gen Zers. They're not getting raised by people who was raised by Gen this and Gen that. They're getting raised by us. Okay, we're the new aunties, uncles, mamas, and daddies. Okay, like we the ones bringing the juice boxes and the beers to the birthday party because this is when the kids go to sleep. This is our party too. Like that's what we're the next generation. So it's kind of like we have to teach each other, but we also have to teach them, and we also have to teach the older generation too while we're still learning, and they're gonna have to do that too. So it'd be a lot easier if we just all like made sense of what's going on. But how do you feel about the conversation, besties? How do you feel about the question I asked? Do you think that the older generation is a little bit less outspoken than the younger generation, or do you just think that they had a more sophisticated way of communicating? Let me know in the comments. Bye, besties. If you're watching this video, that means you made it to the end of my video. Thanks for watching all the way through, and don't forget to subscribe to all of my social media accounts, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Midnight Modules. Bye.